Good day, viewers, Guyana, the Caribbean, and around the world, and welcome to another broadcast of Venture Capital Fund. Today, I have an extremely talented person in studio with me, and that is no other than Avia Maria. And Avia Maria has a tremendous and impeccable background in leadership and in business. From the age as young as 20, 21, 22, Marie has already realized leadership and success in management. And today she will talk to us about what those stepping stones were. She will talk to us about what is her success formula. And I'm quite certain that the information that she will share with us today will certainly help you in your journey to become as successful as she has become in her field of business. Talking about her success story, Avia managed one of the largest stationery stores in Guyana. It has multiple branches throughout Guyana, and this is only one testimony to the level of success that she has achieved. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Gary.
You're most welcome. The first question that I wanted to ask you is, what value do you put on vision, commitment, and leadership? And how has these things been able to help you, these traits, been able to help you in your leadership journey?
Thanks. That's a brilliant question. And those combinations are interlinked. Vision, commitment, and leadership, they're all interlinked. And
Yeah.
they're important because the vision speaks to, a vision is like a roadmap.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere where you see yourself in the future. It's like if you want to get to a certain place, you prepare. Let's say we're going on a vacation. You have to prepare for the vacation. The vacation is in the future. It hasn't happened as yet, so you have to prepare for it. So you always prepare for the future now, and that's how you're able to realize your vision. And in order for you to prepare for your vision, you obviously have to be committed because nobody can accomplish anything that they set their mind and heart to do without commitment. And I'd like to add a lot of C to complement commitment and that I would like to speak about consistency. Because if you are consistent, you'll be committed. So they go.
Awesome.
And leadership is basically learned. I don't think anyone is born a leader. You can become a leader. And it's something that you can develop over time, and you're always growing and learning as a leader. No leader has arrived. We tend to think that that is so, but it's a fiction of our imagination. No leader has arrived, and you're constantly evolving. And if no other year has taught us that, 2020 has taught us, has been a test for true leadership. And those that were able to adapt and pivot, those are the ones that definitely will come out on top and will lead the world into the next century.
Great point. And I do believe what you said is absolutely true. I mean, regardless of where you are, regardless of the level of success that you have in life, you are never at the peak point of your success. That means that the process of learning is still there. Having said that, I'm happy also to hear you speak to leadership, and that leadership process is never completed. And even as we recognize that the process of leadership is never completed, we also recognize that sometimes it is hard to pin down what is leadership. And in my writings, I would normally say perhaps there's 50 shades of leadership. In management, we are taught about the autocratic leadership, we are taught about the democratic leadership, we are taught about the paternalistic leadership. In my book, I write about the proactive leadership. But what I have found is that one of the commonality with leadership, it's about fostering healthy, productive relationships with the right people. Do you agree?
I kind of like that.
Awesome, awesome. All right. I know that you, as a leader, and I've heard you said this before, you put tremendous emphasis on the relationship masteries, building relationships with people within the organization and outside of the workforce. Would you care to talk about your human relation culture of leadership that has helped you attain the level of success that you would have attained in your management field?
Yes. I'm delighted to speak about people relations.
Yeah,
That's at the heart of who I am. The thing about people relations and leadership, an important element of that has to do with empathy.
yeah.
It's if you genuinely care for people, they will know.
I love that. I love that. You said it.
Yes, if you genuinely care for people, they will know. And it's something that it's part of who you are.
Yeah.
If you're not a caring person or you don't know how to relate to persons that you can connect with them, that they can actually feel at their heart that you really care about them, it will be difficult for you to lead or manage them. And
And
first and foremost, you have to start first with leading yourself. And even if you have to start, you also have to start with your family, because if you can't expect to lead people outside of your home and you don't have order in your home. And that's an important element for me. I know we can repeat a lot of textbook jargon and stuff like that, but it's who you are at the heart, and people connect with people at the heart. It has, and it's sometimes it's just little things, like asking someone, like for me, I will genuinely ask someone, how are you? Even if I'm sending them a text message, like, how are you? If I'm interacting with persons physically in an office space, I'd ask them, how are you today? Did you have breakfast? Did you have lunch? You will. It shows questions like those speaks to you genuinely caring for people. You not just want what they can do, but you genuinely care about their welfare, and that's something that people will know if you're authentic, because that's the way you'll have to show up all the time. It's not like you're just asking the question because you want to appear as if you care. There's a level of consistency to demonstrating good people skills and people relationships, and it's empathy is at the heart of it.
you know, you are speaking to some very, very profound issues. And just to repeat a few of them, you speak about uh, care for people, genuinely caring for people. You spoke about self knowledge, self awareness, and caring for self. And you talked about caring for the family. Because if you don't care for yourself, you most likely wouldn't care for the family. If you don't care for the family, you wouldn't care for the extended family, which is in the workplace and so forth. Um, in years of experience in the field of management also, um, do you think that there is a lack of empathy? Do you think that there is uh, this lack of concern for the human resource that are in the workforce?
There is a little deficit.
Yeah,
I, like, I won't say there's a lack of, but there's a deficit. So
there's a deficit.
there's a deficit. It has to do with our culture,
Yeah,
and it has to do with how we were socialized
yeah.
and what we were led to believe.
I agree. I also want to add that from the research that we are doing, that lack of empathy, that deficit in empathy, it is likely to put local content at a disadvantage. And I say this against the backdrop. You find that FDIs that are penetrating the market, they are coming with well-developed corporate cultures.
That's correct.
And they are coming with the ability to give not only financial benefits, but fringe benefits. And you're going to find that local resources, the human resources, will be more gravitating towards those operations. So there's a lot of work that I suggest would have to start being done to emulate the excellent qualities that you're talking about. Um, Perhaps it's something, this is the subject that we will talk some more about because it's very deep. You talk about, care for self and the ability to lead self. And from the research again that we are doing, we are finding that many persons, when you ask, tell us about yourself, they say, my name is Tom, but your name being Tom doesn't define who you are. It's about understanding that deeper sense of self. And it's allowing that deeper sense of self to be anchored in that position of strength. And that position of strength is what should be able to elevate you largely based on the fact that you allowing your substance to be relevant to adding value and fixing problems in the world. I say that because the fact that I believe that our core purpose in this world is to serve humanity.
That's correct.
And that is to add value and to fix problems. But you're right with what you would have said. Our culture, our corporate culture is not pro-human in most cases. There are some elements of that. I mean, pro-human might be a strong word to use, but from all the research that we are doing, from the recent observation of the impact of COVID-19 on the workforce, has led us to form some of these opinions that we are currently discussing. And later on, we will perhaps go deeper, not today, at another broadcast, we will probably go deeper into this. But I truly want to pause at this moment to acknowledge you. I really love the fact that you're aware of the importance of leadership on leader understanding themselves. So this in itself tells me where you are as a leader. It's important that you would have also said that, leaders strive to make positive impact on their family. And I know that you will do the same as a parent and you would carry that over to your workforce. And they say women are better leaders. So I guess we can expect that. You also talk about care for people. And I really love that you recognize some of these core elements in the whole landscape of leadership and management. And I want to give you tremendous kudos for the lead role that you were playing in that regard.
Deeply humbled.
You're most welcome. The third question I want to ask you is, we have talked so far about the corporate culture and the impact it can have on the internal workforce. Can we now look at what has been your leadership style, your leadership formula in terms of impacting the public, your demographic, your target audience? Because what I've seen is that your operation has grown over the years into becoming an institution that has created multiple access points for your consumers. And yes, you have been able to provide a range of essential services to your consumers. And the way that I have assessed it, because I've used your service many times, it is not just about providing a service. At the end of the day, the beneficiary is satisfied with the quality of work that they have received from your organization. And I don't know if that's a direct design to impact the customer so as to foster feedback, so as to foster referral, so as to propel the growth of the organization. Can you tell us about that culture that has been working for you?
Okay. That's a great question, and I'd like to also endorse the sentiments you shared prior to the question on customer relations and culture, and more or less developing a strategy for lifetime customers. I'd like to say that Metro has not arrived. In fact, we are embarking on a new phase, and we recognize prior to the oil and gas industry or Guyana discovering having large oil reserves. Prior to that, our culture in our country, I'm not going to just speak about Metro in general, was not one that was focused on safety, and we didn't put a premium on, let's say, quality management systems and stuff like that. And in order to deliver quality, you must have a system where you can monitor it, you can monitor and control it, you can evaluate it, and of course, you'll have continuous improvement. So we have a deficit as it relates to customer relations culture in Guyana in general. There are a few companies that stand out. I guess we can safely say, like the fast food restaurants, and those are franchises, so they have to operate by a certain set of given rules. However, for most of the other private sector organizations, it's like, it's a hit or miss. Sometimes it's good, and then at other times it's not so good. So here at Metro, what we've decided to do, we actually completed our quality management system. And we've started implementation because we're striving to have ISO certification by mid of 2021. And it's good to talk about that. You want to be able to deliver quality, you want to meet the needs, you want to meet and exceed the needs of the customers, which is a whole lot of rhetoric. But that's actually, if you're going to actually do it, what systems do you or policies do you have in place to achieve that? How are you going to measure it? How are you going to control it? And how are you going to sustain continuous improvement? So, I know, for instance, I know at Metro, we've had a lot of challenges. And then what we have is like a blame culture. The people on the front line level, if they slip up, we more or less want to put their feet to the fire. But I always say, when anytime there's a mess up on the front line, I think the risk management has to take responsibility for that, because most times it's that they didn't have a system, they weren't trained, there wasn't special instructions, there wasn't a special guide, nobody was checking to see if the outcome that we aimed for, that it was achieved, and against what standard. So it's just, my view is just very revolutionary and different, but most of the times, so I'm figuring out what we're doing is by implementing a quality management system, it will help Metro as a company to have a competitive advantage and help to build on, you'll have more of a consistent delivery in quality service delivery, one that can be sustained, because of course you are going to be audited, so you have to sustain it. And I think that's most companies in Guyana should be heading down that road, because as you mentioned prior, the multinationals, they're coming here with a very sophisticated culture,
Yeah.
and their people skills, their employee engagement skills are on point, and they know how to retain good people so that they can sustain their organizations. And more or less, where's the talent going to come from? From the local pool. So as companies in the private sector, the government sector, Guyanese in general, we have to up our ante as it relates to customer relations as a whole.
I would agree with you. And I think that we have a lot of work to do in terms of ensuring that we put up that fireproof of protection of what we call local content. Um, International competition can become very intense. From years of study of how international markets operate, and those guys look for the best talent, because when they are going to do business, they are extremely serious about business. So those guys are accustomed sending their guys to scout around universities to identify the top and brightest people in the universities and recruit them long before they would have graduated from the university. So by the time they get out, they have a job that is well set for them. and they take off the brightest, smartest people off of the market very quickly. And that is only one element of competition that can come. So I'm really happy to hear that you are speaking to the issue. I'm happy to know that you are not only speaking to it, but you have also adopted quality management systems as a means of positioning your brand to have that competitive advantage in terms of what you're doing. Again, for a woman, I take my hat off to you. I think that that is a tremendous achievement. I think that this has to be universal. I think that you have an interesting story to tell. And I guess you have a lot to do in terms of thanking your grandparents and parents for molding you up the way you are today.
Most definitely.
Yeah. The last question that I want to ask you is has to do with habits. And I know you talk about consistency, and I think consistency in habits isn't one. What is your thoughts of habits and leadership, and how important is this in the helping you to nurture uh, a clear mind, clear vision, helping you to take right action to build a strong brand? How important is habits and leadership?
Oh, that's a brilliant question you asked. And habits can either make or break you.
You got it. You got it.
And the other thing about habits is that if you want to replace a bad habit, you have to replace it with a good one.
You got it.
So you find, I think sometimes as leaders, there's this notion that you're supposed to be perfect. You're
Yeah,
supposed to say all the right things, do all the right things. They forget that you are a human being, and that you're subject to limitations.
yeah,
And so most times people forget that a leader is an actual person that have feelings, that a leader that will make mistakes and don't always say the right thing. And for me, being authentic is pivotal. I believe in authenticity as in leadership and transparency, something that most people are afraid of. It's like you prefer to show a fake version of yourself, and then when you're discovered, you more or less make an excuse or you try to cover it up. I believe in showing up in who you are. I think everybody's going to relate to people as their authentic self. You don't have to pretend. I believe in being transparent. I believe in being authentic because it's like the people in your home. I am going to always go back to home. They're the persons who actually know you. So you can be out there and be sending a message that you're, you know, creating a profile of who you're not, but the people who are closest to you would actually know who you are. So
You're perfectly correct.
that in
And
itself, I think it's a recipe for disaster. So everybody has their innate talents, and they also have strengths and weaknesses, and that's how we were packaged. And what we want to do is we want to focus on our strengths, want to be able to share our strengths with others so we can add value to their lives. And we also want it to be a reciprocal process where we can learn from others. We don't all want to feel like we know everything, and we're only there to give, and we can't receive from those who we interact with. So I think it's more or less a reciprocal relationship. You share and you learn from those you share with. And that calls for.
um, awesome. Well said. I just want to add a couple of things to what you said. I love that you emphasize the term the embrace the authentic self, but I have learned that for many persons, sometimes embracing the authentic self is not necessarily the easiest thing. Why? Because most persons, again, don't have a sense of self, don't have a sense of purpose, don't have a sense of direction. And what I've seen happen, sometimes people try to fit in. and in fit in, they try to blend in.
Yes.
Sometimes I see people try to compromise their value, their strengths, in order to blend in. And what you're talking about, the authentic self, is to embrace you, regardless of who has or have an opinion of you. Their opinion doesn't matter. It's your opinion of you that should dominate throughout your life.
Excellent.
And I think that this is a culture that we have to start talking about. I love that you said you. I mean, you've been saying a lot of things that has been wowing me. From the perspective that you would have said, that a leader don't have to be perfect. We're human. And I could clearly recall that I did mention in my book. Leadership is about taking ownership for your action and inactions. Leadership is also about not necessarily being right all the time, but it's holding your position of strength and being brave enough and bold enough to say, I was wrong. So that means that I'm only human to be wrong, but I am now willing to correct the process, knowing that I was wrong. But we don't teach this in our school. We don't teach this. So everybody strives to be perfect. And in the process of striving to be perfect in the eyes of the looking glass self or the public, you put on this facade, which is what you're talking about. And that can come back to bite you, and it can come back to compromise the process because the issue of trust and confidence and integrity and all of that will come into play. So I must say, I myself have learned a lot from you today. I really love the way you think as a female entrepreneur. And I'm certainly looking forward to doing this more often with you. I think you have a lot to share. In
Wow.
closing, is there anything that you would like to say to your customers, to the public, to young people, to people generally? Is there any specific advice that you would like to share?
First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity.
Welcome.
Definitely read your book. It sounds very interesting and insightful.
Yes.
Seems like we have similar value systems. So
Yeah.
definitely have to read your book. But what I'd like to say in closing, that Guyana is, we should be proud of the Guyana brand. I'm gonna, represent my my country in my closing remarks. We should be proud to be Guyanese. We should be proud of Guyana and the Guyana brand. And there are lots of opportunities. We shouldn't think, we should think abundance because there's enough for all of us. And we don't have to be at each other's neck for us to benefit from what this country has to offer. And we are stronger together.
Awesome. I love that. And I concur. I totally agree. Guyana is on a path for greatness with oil and gas and everything else that is taking place. So I am in the same boat with you.
And
We
if I may,
have, yeah,
if you
go right
make
ahead.
a final comment, because we're also pushing health, safety, security, and the environment at Metro. We actually have a policy that we're implementing. We've been working with the center.
Yeah,
They've asked us to participate in a conference that's coming up sometime in January because there's quite a couple of companies that has been working with the center on SSE. So I'd like to appeal to everyone all across the world to put safety first so that we all can make it into 2021 to enjoy
awesome.
whatever 2021 has to offer us. So let's act responsibly and take care of ourselves and take care of those who aren't even taking care of themselves and to be safe.
Okay.
Happy
Well, okay.
holidays.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Happy holidays to everyone and stay safe.
Thank you. So there you had it, public. This was Avia Maria, a mother, an entrepreneur, a leader, an extremely successful lady, and we certainly have a lot to learn. I take this time to also extend all the best wishes for the holiday and all the best for 2021. Be blessed. All right. Bye bye.